Greetings all, and welcome to the 29th episode of TM Technical Movement. For today, we'll be taking a look at the Sonic Boom, Round, Echoed Voice and Relic Song attacks, and the Heal Bell, Perish Song, Noble Roar, Focus Energy, Copycat, and Mimic techniques.
Much as the name suggests, the Sonic Boom attack involves generating a sonic shockwave in order to inflict damage. Although most types of attacks are generally dependent upon the offensive strength of the user or some other related factor, the Sonic Boom attack is one of the few attacks known that always deals the same amount of damage in every case because the attack is delivered through a simple pressure wave and not a more direct method of inflicting damage. The Sonic Boom itself is exactly what it sounds like, a sonic boom generated by rapidly and slowly moving a wing or body part fast enough to break the sound barrier. The resulting shockwave produced by this action is what actually inflicts damage on a target, but because the strength of the shockwave is completely independent of the power of the user, the damage that the move deals is the same in all cases, roughly 20 HP. The fact that the attack is not guaranteed to work every time makes it a poor move for heated combat, but the fact that the move deals the exact same amount of damage every time, and is affected by items like King's Rocks, makes it a great move for slowly whittling down the health of wild Pokémon without risking knocking them out with a critical hit. While the Sonic Boom attack may not inflict damage in every case, its set properties nonetheless make it almost impossible to counter when it does connect, though a moderately agile Pokémon can still potentially dodge it with enough room. In essence, there is no way to reduce the damage dealt by the attack, but considering that the damage it does is minor to all but very young Pokémon, it's unlikely to be much of a threat in battle anyways. The round attack effectively involves singing a powerful melody capable of damaging an opponent while simultaneously encouraging nearby partners to attack with the same move if available. The round attack is effectively nothing more than a concentrated burst of sound delivered in the form of an enchanting melodic harmony. As such, it has little in the way of special properties and inflicts damage much the same way as other sound-based normal type attacks do, relying on a modified pressure wave to deal damage. Although the round attack is not exceptionally powerful or extremely cost-efficient in terms of stamina, it does have one interesting attribute that can make it a nightmare in multi-Pokemon battles. When a round attack is executed in battle amongst nearby allies, it has the effect of making them feel happy and encouraging them to belt out their own little melody. Though this does very little in most cases, if the partner Pokemon in question also has access to the round attack, it will immediately execute that attack after that partner. More importantly though, because they've received extra encouragement from the Pokemon that initiated the attack, the base power of the partner's round attack is doubled to 120. While this effect cannot be repeated a third time in the case of triple battles, the fact that the round attack can effectively deal tremendous amounts of damage when used in concert can make it a devastating special attack that few Pokemon can avoid at all. Interestingly enough, it seems that all Pokemon capable of learning any TMs have the amazing ability to utilize their own voice, however weak it may be, to execute a round attack, even though only a select number of species learn the move naturally. This issue was addressed by Silphco through the release of the move as TM48 with their 5th through 7th generation line of TMs, and TM76 in their 8th generation line, from which it gained a steady cult following among professional trainers before being discontinued in the 9th generation line. Since the round attack utilizes sound as a weapon, only Pokemon with the soundproof ability will be completely safe from its effects. Otherwise, however, it's extremely difficult to dodge. Strong armor in general, however, can't help reducing the damage dealt by the attack, though weak armor may not perform as well without sustaining critical damage or feeling altogether when the attack is at maximum power. The round attack's powers effectively depend upon how many Pokemon on one side of a battlefield have the capacity to actually use the move, so when little else is available in the way of offense, it can certainly be quite effective at dealing special damage. Even so, it is unlikely to see the attack outside of multi-Pokemon battles, so team tactics as well as decent defenses designed to resist sound-based moves can more often than not hold its effectiveness completely. Much as its name suggests, the echoed voice attack involves user generating a powerful echoing cry that deals damage and intensifies with continued use. The echoed voice attack is a fairly uncommon move that is only learned naturally by Pokemon that have unique ability to use their voice to create artificial echoes without a nearby object by allowing sound to reverberate around in their own bodies before it is released. As such, the echoed voice attack itself is literally that, a massive burst of sound generated from the user as a result of allowing it to echo within its body before leaving the user and striking an opponent. Despite the weak damage it initially does, with every successive use of an echoed voice attack, the actual damage of the echoes being generated within the user increases dramatically as more and more echoes are produced within the ambient air by the attack's execution. In practice, this means that the continued use of the move will eventually boost its weak base power of 40 all the way up to 200 at its maximum value if used 5 times consecutively in increments of 40 base power, turning the otherwise simple move into a deadly concussive force that only beasts immune to sonic attacks will be able to listen to without killing over, especially because it is affected by items like King's Rocks and has the capacity to ignore substitutes. It was for this reason that Silphco decided to release the move as TM49 within the 5th to 7th generation line of TMs, from which it gained a steady cult following among professional trainers before being discontinued in their 8th generation line. Since the Echo Voice attack utilizes sound as a weapon, only Pokémon with the soundproof ability will be completely safe from its effects, otherwise it is extremely difficult to dodge. Strong armor in general can help reduce or negate the damage dealt by the attack, but weaker armor is unlikely to perform as well without sustaining critical damage or failing altogether at higher power levels. The Echo Voice attack is a bit too specialized and uncommon for it to be a major threat in most battles, but if an opponent does have access to it, the way to ensure it doesn't quickly become a major threat, aside from using Pokémon with strong defenses, is to eliminate the opponent as quickly as possible, otherwise interrupt their capacity to use the attack at all. Considered to be the signature attack of Meloetta, the Relic Song attack is essentially a beautiful sounding burst of sound designed to not only inflict damage and possibly render the opponent unconscious, but also allow Meloetta to shift between the aria and pirouette forms. While the Relic Song attack works in roughly the same fashion as the round attack, in that it uses enchanting melodies and concentrated sound waves to damage opponents, the voice of Meloetta drastically changed the move's effects and abilities in practice. As a result of their incredible vocal capacity, the move is a bit more powerful than traditional round attack, though it also costs a bit more stamina to use. Moreover, it is difficult for Pokémon to even attempt to match the move's sound, so it rarely invites the call of other Pokémon in battle. The melody associated with the attack is also exceptionally soothing despite the amount of damage it does, and has about a 10% chance of causing anyone that hears it to fall asleep, making it one of the few damaging attacks capable of potentially knocking the opponent out without completely depleting their energy. Above all else though, the Relic Song possesses an almost mystical quality to its sound that causes an intense psychological reaction within the brains of Meloetta when they perform the move that brings out the different personality types, in turn causing them to shift between the aria and pirouette forms. This essentially makes the move completely and utterly vital to the survival of Meloetta in the wild, against powerful predators and humans alike. But as it turns out, most Meloetta have unfortunately forgotten how to use the move, and thus are unable to switch between forms. For the few that do remember it though, the move is an important weapon for not only dealing damage, but for further allowing them to switch between being powerful special attackers and speedy physical attackers on the fly. Since the Relic Song attack utilizes sound as a weapon, only Pokémon with the soundproof ability will be completely safe from its effects, otherwise however, it is extremely difficult to dodge. Armor can however help reduce or negate the damage dealt by the attack. Unless battling against the Meloetta, which is an unlikely event by any stretch, it is likely guaranteed that no trainer will ever have to worry about this attack in battle. Even so, the fact that it can inflict damage and cause Meloetta to change form can make it a potentially dangerous move that should be prepared for extensively, more so for its ability to require a change in battle strategy than for its damaging power alone. In essence, the heal bell technique involves generating a pleasant ringing noise that helps others recover their composure and eliminate any negative status effects that might be upon them. The heal bell technique is a fairly rare move because it requires the user to be able to produce a clear, pleasant sound without any singing or pitch change involved, which happens to be very difficult in most cases. The heal bell itself is a single pitched burst of sound that sounds differently to everyone that hears it, but nonetheless produces feelings of calm and good health in whoever hears it. In practice, this pleasant tone can help Pokémon suffering from negative status conditions to recover their composure and heal themselves more quickly than they normally would, effectively curing whatever status ailment they might have. Aside from affecting all Pokémon present on the user's side of the battlefield, this move can actually reach all Pokémon within the user's team and can even be detected by Pokémon with a soundproof ability if used directly by them. For the few species able to learn it, this makes the move perhaps the perfect way of ensuring that everyone in a team is as healthy as they can be, and it's one of the best recovery techniques a defensive player can have on their side. Due to its unique attributes, there's no way to directly counter the effects of the heal bell technique. In effect, the Parasong technique involves the user singing a tragic and dreadful melody, so depressing that will effectively render any Pokémon that hears it completely unable to battle after a short amount of time. Unlike the sing and grass whistle techniques, which are designed to lull the opponent to sleep by relaxing them, the singing involved in the Parasong technique is designed to instill a sense of absolute dread and fear that few Pokémon can recover from. The exact sound of this song is different for each species able to learn the move, but the saddening and depressing melody involved in the move is supposed to invoke within those that hear it a sense of remembrance and fixation upon their greatest fears and most tragic and or frightening moments. As time goes on, this will eventually weigh down so heavily on a listener's mind that they will experience a temporary mental breakdown and will be completely unable to continue battling in any state. The effects of the Parasong technique do not come to full fruition until the very end, so the process can be completely interrupted if the Pokémon that heard the move is switched out in the meantime. Instead, Pokémon has been prevented from switching though, the effects are impossible to prevent. Unfortunately, the move also has the same effect on the user, so the move is more than capable of defeating the Pokémon that actually executed it. In combination with moves that prevent escape, such as Mean Look and Block however, the Parasong technique can prove to be invaluable, as the user can easily be switched out while the opponent takes the full brunt of the technique in the end. Unless a Pokemon that has heard the Parasong technique can be switched out or possesses the soundproof ability, there is little able to prevent the move's complete effects from taking hold. Much as its name might suggest, the Noble Roar technique involves usually letting out a loud but regal roar that frightens its targets into intimidation. The Noble Roar technique can effectively be considered to be an exaggeration of the basic growl technique that trades deception for absolute dominance and fear amongst others. The Noble Roar technique works completely off the fact that Pokemon hearing it are not just frightened by it, but more or less intimidated. They do not respond to the same fleeing action as they would to the Roar technique, because the user stares at the target intensely after the move is performed, locking eyes and making them too nervous to flee. This will not always prevent them from escaping, but it does have the effect of lowering their confidence and their concentration in battle, in turn reducing their attack and special attack stats. This move may not see a lot of action due to its relative rarity among Pokemon, but nonetheless is an excellent way for these creatures to scare the heck out of their target, and in turn make it less likely for them to easily fall against the opponent's offensive might. Attacks and techniques to raise a Pokemon's attack or its special attack stats, or lower an opponent's defense and special defense stats, and the soundproof ability are highly recommended for dealing with the Noble Roar technique. In essence, the Focus Energy technique involves user taking a deep, relaxing breath before forcing the brain to release a massive amount of adrenaline, in turn increasing the chance of scoring a critical hit tremendously. While the chance of scoring a critical hit with an attack in battle is generally dependent upon the pain response from an opponent at the moment of impact, the Focus Energy technique is unique in that it focuses on improving the user's inherent chances of scoring a critical hit rather than affecting the opponent directly. Immediately after beginning a Focus Energy technique, a Pokemon will generally take a deep, relaxing breath to calm themselves and minimize the amount of impurities in their bloodstream. After this, the user will concentrate on their minds and their physical strength so intently and strongly that their brain is forced to release a massive amount of adrenaline into the system all at once. This master shot is weak enough, though not causing any serious damage to the user's body, but is still strong enough to intensify the force and power with which their attacks are delivered. This does not physically alter the damage their attacks actually do, but it does have the effect of multiplying their inherent chances of scoring a critical hit with any move by a factor of 8, an effect that can further be amplified with moves that already have a high chance of scoring a critical hit in the first place. In practice, this can make even the most offensively weak Pokemon a dire threat on the battlefield, as the ability to bypass defensive measures is a trait that makes critical hits the bane of every defense-oriented trainer known, which helps to explain why the move was made into TR13 Pacifico's first line of TRs before being removed from subsequent generations. Without some form of protection against critical hits, there's no way to directly counter the effects of the Focus Energy technique. As one might imagine from its name, the Copycat technique involves user copying the move last used by an opponent and then utilizing it immediately. The Copycat technique is an exceptionally complex move, whose exact functions are still a relative mystery, but mainly relies on the mimicry skills of the user in order to garner its full effects. In simple terms, the Copycat technique takes the memory centers of the user's brain and turns them into virtual copy machines that effectively mimic and copy entirely the effects and power of the move last used by the opponent for a very short period of time, acting as a weak variation of the classic Mimic technique. From there, the user will instantly execute the move used last by the opponent without any regards to what the last move used actually was, before it needs to rest and is thus left to the mercy of an opponent's potential counterattack. Although the Copycat technique is generally classified as a normal type technique, its ability to copy even moves that the user would never be able to learn, let alone utilize, seems to be the result of advanced telepathic powers, though the true extent of the phenomenon is still uncertain. Due to its unique attributes, there is no way to directly counter the effects of the Copycat technique. Much as its name also suggests, the Mimic technique involves copying the move last used by an opponent and then retaining it for a limited amount of uses. The Mimic technique is an exceptionally complex move, whose exact functions are still a relative mystery, but mainly rely on the mimicry skills of its user in order to garner its full effects, as with the Copycat technique. In simple terms, the Mimic technique takes the memory centers of the user's brain and turns them into virtual copy machines that effectively mimic and copy entirely the effects and power of the move last used by an opponent, with the exception of a small handful of specialty moves. From there, the user will remember how to use the technique for a short time as a consequence of their improved mimicry skills compared to the users of the Copycat technique, and thus will be able to use the move for a short amount of time before the effects of the technique completely wear off. Although the Mimic technique is generally considered to be a normal type technique, its ability to copy even moves the user will normally never be able to utilize, let alone learn, seems to be the result of abnormal telepathic abilities, though the true extent of this phenomenon is still uncertain. This, of course, did not stop Silphco from utilizing the strange powers of the technique to their advantage by releasing the move as TM34 within their first generation line of TMs. But unfortunately, an inability to fully understand the move's functions and its possible hazards eventually labeled the move as a potential flight risk, resulting in its termination as a TM. Due to its unique attributes, there's no way to directly counter the effects of the Mimic technique aside from waiting for it to wear off or forcing the opponent to be switched out.
That's it for now, but look forward to the next set of moves here on TM Technical Movement. Thank you all for watching this video. It always brings me great joy to see others enjoying the work I do to try and make the world of Pokemon and the fascinating creatures that lay inside of it feel as real as they possibly can. If you really enjoy my work, please feel free to leave a comment and subscribe, as I always do my best to respond to any and all comments that are left on my videos. In addition, if you wish to learn more about my work and help support it, you can find links to my Patreon page, as well as email and other contact information to my work on DeviantArt in the video description down below. Furthermore, you can find a link to my Discord server there as well if you'd like to get a first glimpse at what videos are coming up next and converse with other fans of the world of Pokemon. Thank you for taking the time to watch this, and have a wonderful rest of your day.